Did you know that you can get booked to speak on a stage without cold outreach? Hello, action taker. Welcome to Live Blissed Out, a podcast where I have inspirational and informational conversations with business owners and subject matter experts to help you get the scoop on a variety of topics. Tired of hesitating or making decisions without having the big picture? Want to be in the know? Then this is the place to go. I'm your host, Marissa Houston, helping you achieve bliss through awareness and action. So let's get to it. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Leisa Reid is an international speaker, author of 7 books, and the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She's also the CEO of the International Speaker Network. Leisa teaches entrepreneurs how to use public speaking as a soul-fulfilling marketing strategy to attract their ideal clients. Today, she's sharing her top secrets to help you get booked, speak with confidence, and grow your business through speaking. To learn more, visit getspeakinggigsnow.com. Let's jump in. Leisa, welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here.
Thank you, Marissa. I'm excited too.
Do we have a treat for our listeners today? We're going to be talking about public speaking, and I know that that's something that a lot of people are afraid of, and yet it's such a powerful tool, but obviously it's never one size fits all. It's unique. It's something that you really have to practice and do correctly to make it work. And so I am really looking forward to hearing from you about what are the things that a lot of people should be thinking about if they want to pursue public speaking. And how do they reach their goals?
Yeah, I want to talk a lot about public speaking as it relates to entrepreneurs. I think that's one of the missing conversations in terms of sales and marketing for entrepreneurs. Like, people don't realize, oh, there's all these things they could do. You don't have to have a special permission or take a degree to do this. It's a level playing field, and entrepreneurs are potentially leaving a lot of money on the table if they're not utilizing public speaking as a marketing strategy.
Yeah, and I'm glad you specified that. It's completely different when it's for entrepreneurs. There's a specific goal that you have in mind from that perspective. So let's dive into it and share with the people that are listening, because most of our listeners are entrepreneurs. It's probably something they've been wanting to do, but they're afraid of it and they don't know how to approach it. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, and this is very common that people think a lot of people have a fear of public speaking, and a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And usually the people who I work with are excited and can't wait to get on stage, not so much that they can be the center of attention, but because they have a message to share that's like really powerful. And oftentimes, even if we're a little afraid, we were like, oh, I've never done that before. When our message gets bigger than our fear, we know, okay, now it is time to step out. Just to address the elephant in the room with regards to the fear of public speaking, I call that speaker's kryptonite. And it's something that stops speakers in their tracks. And it usually comes from something in childhood, like you getting called on in front of the class to read, or to come up to the front of the room to say, do a math problem or something like that. That can be really humiliating experience if you're not really good at whatever that thing is that you got called up to the front to do. And for some people, it doesn't really bother them. They just go about their day and go through their life never having an issue with it. But for a lot of people, that experience can instantly tell the body, nope, we're never doing that again. Then you become an adult and you have all this expertise and you say, I'm afraid of public speaking. And it's just from something from many, many decades ago.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think based on what you just said, I think what comes to mind is that when you're called, like a Socratic method in school, right? They call on you when you didn't plan for it, and then you're not prepared. You don't really know what to say, or you don't have the answer. It's a very different situation when you have a passion for something and you know that if you don't share it with the world, that they won't benefit from that unless you do. And so if you approach it from a perspective of, this isn't about me, it's about helping other people, then you change that mindset, you change the narrative, and it's something you are obviously familiar with, then it becomes fun and engaging and something that you actually look forward to.
Absolutely. And it's like when you describe it that way, and I've never really thought about it exactly how you described it, it feels more empowering than when you are, let's say, afraid to be called on because you don't know the answer. That doesn't feel super empowering, to most people. It's like, I got caught, I'm busted, and it can create anxiety. It's embarrassing unless you do happen to know the answer. But when you are going, no, I'm going to be intentional about what I'm going to share, and I'm in charge, I'm putting it together, and all my years of experience, this is what people really could benefit from hearing. And then we take it a step further as an entrepreneur, then those people then can take that next step to potentially hire you or to pay you money or to take your courses or whatever your services or offerings are. All of a sudden, that's really empowering because you get to see their growth, their success, their movement through life, their solutions to problems. And that's really the best prize of all.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think we really need to come at it from that perspective. So let's start with, okay, you meet someone and you talk about public speaking, and now they say, this sounds exciting. It's something I want to pursue. Where do they start?
Well, one of the things that I always say is you want to start with what I call get your talk ready to rock. And that's something I offer for people. But what that means is you need to figure out what you're going to speak about. What's your signature topic going to be? What's that big message that you're going to share? Because when we declare, oh, I'm a speaker, the natural next question people are going to ask is, oh, what do you speak about? And you really want to have an answer. You don't want to have to go, hold on, let me go check what my title is.
Yeah.
You want to have that ready to go right off the tip of your tongue. I call it passing the grocery store test. Like if someone's in line at the grocery store and you happen to get chatting, could you say, oh, this is the title of my talk without hesitating, without having to look it up? And in that, it's not just about memorizing the title, but really creating the whole thing. Like, what's the title? What's the description of it? What's the learning points of the objective that you're going to share? What's your call to action? So there's other components, but it's something that, at least when I'm done with people after they create their talk, they're in love with it. Like, this is the thing that you can't wait to share with the world. And you're excited, you're enthusiastic. What happens when we don't have that ready is we push opportunities away. I've had quite a few clients call me and say, well, I guess I should start speaking because people keep asking me to come and speak and I keep procrastinating on responding to them. Now those leads are cold. I wasn't ready. And so they're just like energetically pushing those very lucrative opportunities away because they're not ready. So we got to get ready to say yes. And getting your talk created is, to me, the very first logical step. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I can't wait to share this with everybody.
Yeah. While you were saying that, I got to thinking, does public speaking have to be live? Or could you consider something like this podcast public speaking? I mean, are you specifically talking about being in front of a group of people? And I guess I'm going to follow up with another question. Should someone who is fearful consider practicing in a platform like a podcast and then transition into the live version of it?
That's a great question. So how I look at public speaking is that it's like a deck of cards where you have 52 cards, but you can play lots of different games. Same thing with public speaking. So sharing your message can come in lots of different methods. And even go back to what we were just talking about, having your talk ready to rock, where you've decided, like, these are my main points. This is what I really want to get across. Once you decide those things, you can then repurpose each of those points into a story on a podcast, or sharing information on a podcast, or sharing something on a live stream on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, or you create videos, or you create a masterclass, or you speak virtually. You submit a recording of you speaking, you get interviewed, like the list goes on and on. So it doesn't just have to be standing on a stage with a real live human audience standing in front of you. Most of my talks these days are virtual, which allows me to travel all over without ever leaving my house. Very convenient. And I get a lot more done and I have a lot more free time.
I love that. And to your point, I think repurposing is wonderful because it'll do the work for you even when you're sleeping, because somebody can watch a video online and you don't have to repeat yourself, particularly if you're teaching something specifically. We have the luxury now of doing that, where in the past we didn't. And so just having that mindset and thinking to yourself, how do I make the most out of my time? And whether that's in a Zoom call or on a podcast or putting something on YouTube or attending an event, you can utilize one, I guess, presentation, for lack of a better word, and then repurpose it in different ways.
Yes. And I'll address the other question that you had said about like, is a podcast a good way to get your feet wet? Absolutely. It's a lot less pressure to have someone alongside you, interviewing you, asking you some questions, having a conversation. The whole spotlight's not 100% on you. So it's a little bit more relaxed. And the game that we're playing really is the unconscious competence game, where you want to develop unconscious competence around those points that you want to make, those stories that you want to share, those whatever teachings, exercises, statistics, whatever those things are that you're going to share. Because then you're less likely to have that feeling of getting caught off guard by the teacher, right? Like, oh, I've shared that a bunch of times. I know how to share that story at the drop of a hat. And we want to develop that in our system. And I don't mean like memorizing it, but just embodying that part of you, embodying sharing what you do and how you do it and how you help people. That's so empowering.
100%. And here's the thing. Nobody does anything right the first time. Whether you start a YouTube channel, whether you start a podcast, you are awkward in the beginning because you've never done it. And you can have theoretically all the tools in your tool belt, but if you haven't used those tools, if you haven't practiced, you can't get better. And so you kind of have to approach it from that perspective and say, the more time I put into it, the more I learn from it, the more comfortable it gets, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So then, is this for everyone? I mean, is this the best way for us to market our businesses? Or are there people that should step away from it and say, no, this isn't a fit for me?
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we become entrepreneurs because we don't want to do the things we don't want to do. And we want to do the things that we want to do. And we want more freedom and more money and, those kind of things. And we want to help people and make an impact. So I am not an arm twister. Like if you hate public speaking and you would rather get a root canal, well, my goodness, then do not do it, right? Why would you do that to yourself? But, the people I work with love it. They're like, it's so fulfilling. I call it soul fulfilling marketing strategy because it's like the drug-free drug. When you're up there on stage, whether it's virtual or on a podcast or in a real live audience, it feels so good to know that you've helped people and that you've opened some minds and that you've expanded some solutions for people. It just feels so exciting and exhilarating. But you also want to make sure it makes sense business-wise. I mean, it could feel really good, but you also want to make sure it feels really good after you're done because, the cash register rung. And one way to help determine, is this a fit for me? So number one, do I think that would be fun? Would that light me up? Okay, if we have a yes and a yes, then we're going to move on to, okay, does it make sense for my business? And where you can start figuring that out, do you have a product or service that's 500 and above? Then we're in the right ballpark. Ideally we're at 1,000, but it doesn't mean that you need to sell that product from stage. Your call to action might be something free where people get a phone call with you or they get on your email list or something that leads to that product or service that you offer for 500 plus. So that's where it starts to really make sense. I work with a lot of coaches, consultants. A lot of times their programs are 5,000 above. So if a person has a product or service that's $5,000, for example, and they gave 24 talks a year to their ideal audience, they have their ideal talk ready to rock. They've got all their ducks in a row and they're in front of their prospective clients and they got one client from each of those speaking engagements. That's over a six-figure income right there, just from their speaking. And then I'm not even talking about getting paid to speak. I'm going to speak, I'm going to waive my fee, showing up to a room full of my ideal clients. That's an amazing marketing strategy that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't take a lot of time that you can reuse for years. So to me, that's where it makes sense.
And we haven't even talked about the repurposing part that you already mentioned. You've got videos playing 24/7 on your website. So then you have the ability to get the message out even to a wider audience, which could then lead to even more customers. So that's like basic scenario. I think it's very doable to expect to get one customer.
Yeah, right. That's why I like to be conservative because we're not selling pies in the sky. It's like, okay, and And it's something you can continually grow. And, as your prices grow, as your offerings shift and change, as you shift and change, you can always alter your talk. You're not married to the thing you started with. And it allows you to evolve and grow as an entrepreneur, which is nice.
And it's funny you mentioned that because, when I started doing the podcast, everybody asked me the same question, like, why are you doing this? It's hours and hours of work to get the right guests, to plan everything, to edit, to put it up there, to do all these things. What's it for? Well, it's been the most organic way for me to grow my business and the trust that I built with people. It's phenomenal. I cannot even begin to tell you what it's done. It's paid for itself tenfold. Let's put it that way.
Love it.
I never even mention what I do. They just find out about it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I trust her because I interviewed her. Or, I was on her podcast, and then they connect me with somebody else. And it just builds a community that you cannot replicate in any other way. And so for me, it's been so fulfilling, not only because I'm coming at it from the intention of sharing and meeting wonderful people with no other plan. I don't even have a plan. Like you said, I love it. I love meeting people. I love sharing information. That's really where I get my fulfillment. And then it's just unintended consequences in a good way, because then all these other things start to happen. I think we just have to get out of our own way and just do it, because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, in my opinion. So let's say that you have somebody in front of you. They're excited. They're pumped up and they're like, Leisa, let's do this. How do they get booked? How do they start to get in front of people?
There's so many techniques out there, and you could Google it. And I always say sometimes we could get lost in Google land and be there for hours and hours, days, weeks, months, years. But my favorite way is to hang out with other speakers. And I think this is the less popular one because people don't realize, they think maybe other speakers are their competition. But in my world, other speakers are my best referral partners. And it's something I call speaker soulmates. And when you find your speaker soulmates, that's the person that you're really aligned with. They're out there speaking, you're out there speaking. They speak to a similar audience as you, but they don't speak about the same thing you do. And they're willing to refer you and you're willing to refer them. That's what I call a speaker soulmate. And when you find your speaker soulmates, you can really eliminate a lot of the cold calling from your to-do list. And when I say cold calling, it can mean cold outreach, cold emailing, cold DMing or Googling. I haven't cold called for speaking in over 10 years. And it's because I'm aligned with these individuals. And we're talking like 3 people. And everyone can have that. If, you're new to speaking, you might not go like, well, I don't know where the speakers are hanging out. Where are they hanging out? They hang out at the organization I lead called the International Speaker Network, because it's designed literally for entrepreneurs who use public speaking to grow business. So it's a little bit of a different conversation than other speaker networks, because that is literally what we are all about. And so it's like we encourage sharing, we encourage collaboration, we encourage connections. Let's say, Marissa, you speak on a stage, in January, and they have a speaker spot in February. They're not going to have you come back in February, but they would love to probably hear who you might recommend to come in February. So that's how it works. It's that simple.
And again, I'm going to relate it to podcasting just because this is something that a lot of people understand. But when I started, you think you're alone. And then you realize there's so many other people who are podcasting. And then you happen to interview them and they're like, hey, do you want to get on my podcast? And then all of a sudden you're filled with a network of people that are there to support you and look forward to what you have to share and vice versa. And so to your point, don't think that you're alone. There are a lot of resources and people that can help you who need you. And again, it's switching that mindset from internal as me and external as how can I help others?
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I started the network in the first place, because I was doing it by myself. I mean, I had like little blisters on my poor little fingers, bloodied from, cold calling all day. And I got great results, but man, it was miserable. It just was like this hustle, struggle, scramble, scraping, and what I call soul-sucking activities. And so I thought, gosh, there's got to be an easier way if I just hung out with other people doing the same thing and we all played together. Well, that would ease the load for everyone. And it did. And that's what I still do today.
Yeah. And I think the same way in the sense that, we could sit down and have a conversation and you could teach me what you know and I could share with you what I know. But I don't find it that exciting. What gets me excited is to know that we can do this and share it with the world,
Love that.
with anyone who wants to listen. So why can't we exponentially put it out there for everyone as opposed to keep it to yourself or to just one person? And so to me, that's the beauty of podcasting, is that anyone can benefit from what you have to offer. And public speaking is no different. Now, in the sense that if you're doing it live and let's say it's not being recorded, then you're limited to whoever is in that space at that moment in time. But to your point, you can think outside of that and say, okay, well, if I'm speaking to 100 people already, why not record it and then put it on my website and everybody else can watch it? So you kind of have to look at it from, how do I get the message out to as many people as I can?
Yes.
Because then you're doing a service to more people, just approaching it from that perspective. And again, getting out of yourself, because it isn't about you. It's about how you can help others. It just makes it so rewarding when you think of it from that perspective. Okay, and so then how do we attract the ideal clients without sounding pushy?
Yeah, that's a fear, right? We don't want to feel, especially when we're really heart-centered, really purpose-driven. Maybe we've never really had sales or marketing training. And so we can start to think of sales as like, ew, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. I don't want to be that person. But if you're speaking and you're speaking for business, you still need to have a strategy. You still need to have something in there that feels authentic to you. We call it an invitation to the next step. It's often referred to as a call to action. But there's another technique that you can also use combined with your call to action. And it's my peanut butter jelly approach. I call it peanut butter and jelly because you want to be attracting, right? So attraction is like sticky and yummy. And you can have the peanut butter by itself, you can have jelly by itself, or you can put them together and you've the bread and you've got the sandwich. So the first part, the peanut butter part, is a client confession. So you could share a client confession in your talk. You're telling a Jane Doe came to me and confessed XYZ. And then you combine it with the jelly, which is the story. So oftentimes we share problems or buzzwords from our industry, and then the audience doesn't really get it. But when you shift it to a client confession, that's what they were telling you before they hired you. They were saying, Marissa, I have this issue. Oh my gosh, this drives me crazy. In their own words, they're confessing this problem and they're coming to you for a solution. That's the client confession part. And I think people just don't really realize that that's that very meaty, lots of information is in there. And then you put it into a story. For example, I had a client who trusted me enough to confess that she was not making the money she wanted to make on her events, even though everyone loved the event. She's very well respected, super intelligent, confident woman. So it took a lot for her to say, Leisa, this isn't working. I don't know what's wrong, but they're not signing up for my program. So we took a look at what was going on in the agenda and how she positioned herself in the event and found out that she felt really icky about selling. She thought she was going to be taking. And so she wanted to put the spotlight on everyone else and take it off of her. But by doing that, they weren't realizing how much she could help them. And when she realized that she could authentically really help shift their life and in a way that felt good to her, then she was able to put some of the spotlight on herself and share from the heart. That was very, very important to her. She got $18,000 in instant sales after shifting that little degree. So what I just shared, a little tweak, and that's a true story, that's a demonstration of the client confession into the story format.
And also, don't you think that it helps the audience really relate?
Yeah.
A lot of times when we're up there, we want to give out so much information, we get technical.
Yeah.
And there's no emotion, there's no connection, and they don't really see how they fit in. But when you throw in a story of somebody that went through a struggle that they're likely going through as well, now you make the connection.
And that not everyone has it together. Yeah, not everyone's got it all. It might look all rosy on the outside, but as entrepreneurs, we all have issues that we are overcoming and evolving into.
Oh, absolutely. What's the biggest roadblock? What's stopping people from doing this?
The biggest roadblock is really what I call speaker's kryptonite, which is a little bit different than having a fear of public speaking, because this is a person who actually wants to speak, who is excited to speak, but still has some hesitation. And the speaker's kryptonite, and if you're not familiar, a lot of people know kryptonite's the one thing that can kill Superman. So it's a fake thing, but in our mind, it can certainly feel really real. And speaker's kryptonite can sound something like, I need to do more research. I need to work on my talk. I'm not sure what to say. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know how to sell. I don't know what I should offer. What if nobody buys my stuff? Who would ever let me be on stage? Things like that, these self-doubt messages. Everyone has their own formula of what that sounds like. So it's not a one size fits all. It's really getting tuned in. What is going on in my mind that's stopping me from sharing my brilliance?
That is so true. And there's always an excuse. Always. It's either you don't like the sound of your voice, you may have an accent, you maybe don't speak the language perfectly, or whatever your issues are, right? Or you don't feel you're eloquent enough, or you don't feel you're interesting enough, or you don't look good, or you don't have the right clothes, or you could just go through a list in your mind. You're just like creating things that people mostly don't care about. But in your mind, it's the thing that's stopping you. And so removing all those barriers is so critical.
Yeah. And it's tricky because especially as a newer entrepreneur, you can get really seduced by creating content. Like, well, now I got to get my website. Now I got to do videos. Now I got to write this blog. Now I have to write social media. Now I have to write a course. Now I have to blah, blah, blah. That list could go on forever. And so it can really make us procrastinate sales. It can make us procrastinate attracting ideal clients. And so that's where we can get into that nitty gritty of like, wait a second, we need to really take action now. The speaker's kryptonite is really powerful. It can literally stop you. So we want to honor it, listen to it, and then overcome it so we can move forward.
That is something that took me a long time to realize. And I realize now incremental living, which means I do things with baby steps. So if I have a task that I need to accomplish and I know there's 10 things or 20 things or whatever, I just pick one and I start. And I don't care if it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes, but I start and I get moving. And then the momentum just builds. And then you're like, okay, I did 30 minutes. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do another 30 minutes. And the next thing you know, you get the project done. And you don't worry so much about trying to put timelines because it starts to move. It starts to go forward and you just get so excited and you feel like it's doable. Whereas when you think of all the things, because there's a lot of work involved in any process. So when you start to look at that, you just get so overwhelmed, you just give up before you even start. And so it's the starting, it's just building and to just make it fun and reward yourself for progress. If you do that, you start to see results.
Yes. And in the Speakers Training Academy, what we do is we work on getting ready to be ready to say yes. Just like you said, incrementally on all these little items, like, okay, let's create the talk. What is it going to be about? Okay, then what are the slides going to look like? Are you a Canva slide, PowerPoint slides, no slides? Like, what are we talking about here? And then practicing it, tweaking it. You're going to probably change the order of things and add in some new content that you haven't thought of and take out some of the content, like allowing it to be created. And once it's created, then it's a lot easier to get booked. Sometimes this happens before they even do one thing with me. They just go, yes, I want to be in. I'm taking speaking really seriously. This is what I want to do. And then within a week, they were like, oh my gosh, someone just asked me to speak somewhere. And they didn't even try. It's amazing, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can't guarantee that, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, I think it probably has happened to you. I know it's happened to me as well. Sometimes you just don't plan it, but you're heading in that direction. And for some reason, things just start to happen.
Absolutely. You start getting ready. It's like if you're single and you want to be in a relationship, you need to make room in the closet. You don't want to have a twin size bed. You got to make room for this person to come into your life. And just like with speaking, you're going to make room for speaking to come into your life. And once you start making room, all of a sudden, magical things happen.
Amazing how that happens. So many people are probably listening to this podcast because they haven't gotten started, because it's been on their radar, but they don't know how to get started. And frankly, when they hear all these things that you just shared, they're probably going, that's me. I'm going through that same thing. And oh my goodness, I'm the one that's holding myself back, or I didn't realize this. And so now they can build that confidence to say, if this is really something I want to pursue, I need to go do it. And so with that being said, Leisa, how do they get a hold of you and learn more about what you do?
For your audience listeners, I have a free gift. It's the 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs now. And you can get it at getspeakinggigsnow.com/tips.
I will definitely add it to the show notes. And does that also link to your website so they can learn about you and your story and how to reach you and those types of things?
If you're really paying attention to the URL, you can just go to getspeakinggigsnow.com and that will take us to everything.
Perfect. Leisa, I cannot thank you enough. I think it's such a rewarding and wonderful way to get people the help that they need in whatever area. And all of us have areas of expertise. All of us have different personalities and things to give. And if we just get out of our own way and realize that there's somebody out there that needs us, then we can start to plan to make that happen, to give them those tools so that you can help them. I'm just so grateful that you took the time today to come here and share this with us. Thank you, Leisa.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure.
That's a wrap for this episode of Live Blissed Out. Thanks to Leisa Reid for joining us, and thanks for listening. If you have a question or comment for a future episode, all you have to do is go to speakpipe.com/LBOVM or click the link in the show notes to leave a brief audio message. If you find value in our show, please visit liveblисsedout.com to reach out, subscribe, and share on social media. This show is made possible through listeners like you. Thank you. So long for now, and remember to keep moving forward.